Hello. By now, you will no doubt be well aware of the government's plan to end all restrictions, or most restrictions, from this Monday, July the 19th, which means that church from the following Sunday, the 25th of July, may be a little bit different in some ways. So we thought it might be helpful for you to have an idea of how that may be. Now, all of this comes with a huge caveat, which is that we are still at the time of recording. That's Friday afternoon, Friday the 14th, 15th, 16th. What day is it? Friday the 16th of July. At this point, the government have still not announced any. No, the big one. The government have announced the House of Bishops, the Diocese of Oxford, the Royal School of Church Music. There isn't any further specific guidance, and it may impact on what we are allowed to do or not. However, we are kind of expecting, based on past experience, that the guidance will be along the lines of, well, it's kind of up to you really, but be safe, be careful of others around you. So on that basis, these are the points which we are the kind of more or less where we think things are going to be going. Although there's still some more discussions to be had through PCCs and others, if we're able to in the time frame that we find out. Firstly, the communion itself will remain in one kind, we think. So no communion wine for the congregation for the time being. In a sense, that's no change from how we have been doing things. So in terms of how we distribute, where we distribute from, everything else, we're expecting that will more or less be the same as it is currently. Masks and face coverings are no longer required to be worn, but we do still think it's a good idea, and we would encourage people to at least consider doing so, not just to protect yourself, but also to protect those around you. It's been pointed out that churches are quite big and spacious, and they're probably a lot safer than being in a small shop somewhere. But we're still grouping together, and there's still maybe vulnerable people there. So if you are able to wear a face covering during the service, that would I think that'd be a very positive thing to do, and we'd certainly be encouraging that, and ask that you do think about that. We won't, however, be asking people to pre-book. In fact, we haven't strictly been asking or requiring people to pre-book for the last few weeks, although we have still been encouraging it. If you feel safer logging in, then you can log in either with the NHS COVID app. The QR codes will still be there as they have been. If you would prefer to be, or if you like to be recorded as your attendance on a roll, so you can be contacted if anything happens, then again you are welcome to do so, but that won't be a requirement anymore. It won't be a requirement either to pre-book or even to sign in if you'd rather not. And in terms of social distancing and seating restrictions during the service itself, we're not going to be enforcing particular restrictions. We would ask that you perhaps try to keep at least a metre or so from, well, at least a metre from anybody who you're not sure of, that they'd be happy for you to sit next to them, basically. So if you're coming with a friend and you know you're both happy to sit together, that's your choice, that's entirely up to you. But if you're coming in and people are already sitting down, then please give them a bit of room, give them a bit of space, so that people aren't made to feel uncomfortable and aren't made to feel they need to shuffle up any further. Please do be mindful of others as you're thinking about where you're sitting and how close it is to other people. And on a similar point, when it comes to the peace, we'll be encouraging non-contact forms of the peace as we've been doing recently. So certainly smile, wave, acknowledge other people around you, but don't shaking hands or anything unless again it's somebody in your family or something you know. And finally, perhaps the biggest one is about singing. We have a bit more flexibility in terms of the choirs, but in terms of congregational singing, we will be having some congregational singing. To start off with, probably just the hymns, but over time that may expand and until we get back to fully how we were before. So there will be congregational singing in church from the 25th onwards, unless unless we find out we're not allowed to, and that will. So initially on a relatively small scale, maybe two or three hymns at most during the service, and over time that will increase until we're closer to where we used to be before COVID came along. If you can remember those lovely days. I hope that's a kind of compromise which people are able to feel they can come to church and worship as many people as possible. Obviously, it's a different, not an ideal situation. Some people are going to want things to be more free and easy. Other people, no doubt, would be happier if things were a bit more controlled and a bit more locked down. So this is an attempt to find a middle ground which will be hopefully acceptable enough to as many people as possible, and that we can continue to worship God in that space. It is just worth mentioning as well that if that does feel uncomfortable to you, there are other services in the benefice at different times during the week and on Sundays which are going to be quieter, fewer people, no music. So if that is something which would make you feel perhaps more comfortable, then please do have a think about those as well. I know that's all been in some ways a bit vague, because all of this, any of those points could be changed by specific guidance. I don't think they will be, but we will keep an eye out. And before next Sunday, we will be updating the congregations of both churches and confirming what the picture will be. But I suspect it will be along those lines that I've just described. God bless.